Travel Market Life.
Hello and welcome to the Hospitality Review Show June 2024 edition with our panel Jonny Siberry, Group Revenue Manager, Sarova Hotel Group, Thibault Catala, CEO, Catala Consulting. In our review shows, we look at pressing issues in the industry, as well as the landscape in front of us, getting insider knowledge from our expert panel and guest interviewees. In this episode, we'll look at European Commission's decision on hotel rate parity and Booking.com, Airbnb ditching experiences, an interview with Richard Collie on what is drip pricing, and an interview with Sam Weston on marketing trends, authenticity, vibing, food and beverage. Then I'll put my panellists through their paces as we dive into the quick quiz. Don't forget, please rate us or subscribe on your podcast platform, and why not join our mailing list through travelmarket.life. If you feel you have a story to share, want to be a guest, and have something to say, email us at team@travelmarket.life. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to Travel Market Life, your companion for industry insights and professional business development. Travel Market Life. Join us by webcast, video or podcast.
Hello guys, it's lovely to see you back again. We are nearly in the middle of summer. Hey presto, the travel world is getting going. How are things? How's bookings looking, Thibault, on your side of the world?
Hi guys, but the bookings are pretty much okay. Very last minute, that's something which we have noticed. The weather has been good and bad at the same time, so people are waiting a bit more last minute before booking the summer holidays. So yeah, visibility, we are a bit like this right now, but hopefully it will get better soon. But I'm quite convinced that on the very short booking window we'll get some good bookings. So yeah, all good, quite positive.
I know you're looking after a lot of European hotels as well as UK properties. So there's this thing that we're going to have the soggiest summer here in the UK. Yet it's going to be another hot summer in Europe. So is this what you're gearing up for?
I'm gearing up for all the UK market, traveling abroad and going into my French or Swiss or any other properties with a bit more sun. I hope so. But it's not only UK which are a bit wet. So that's unfortunately the thing. But we are gearing up for quite last minute. Plus you have the Olympic Games disrupting everything in the next few weeks. So we just need to monitor all of this. So yeah, a lot of things at play right now. So we just need to gear up properly.
Excellent. And Jonny, how are things going as you move into summer? Are we experiencing a typical, problem with the British weather?
Yeah, I've always been an advocate of the belief that the weather has a direct correlation to the effect of booking volumes. And we've had a few nice days recently, and we've seen a little pickup in booking volumes, but at the moment the weather forecast is not so good, so I'm expecting that to drop off. But looking further ahead, June, July, August, summer's looking all right with on the books business, so we're happy enough so far.
That's good. That's good to hear. I mean, I was just reading an article yesterday about the fact that, a lot more hotels have been focusing on increasing their room rates in order to improve revenue due to the cost of inflation rather than increase occupancy. I think, is that something that you're seeing all round across the board, across your hotels and with your peers?
Actually, no, we're looking more at driving occupancy now. We pushed rates considerably in the last couple of years coming out of the pandemic. And I think we've kind of reached a sort of a plateau where we're not able to increase, the market isn't allowing us to increase rates as much. So increases in revenue, we've got to drive through occupancy. Previous couple of years, our strategy was rate over occupancy, but now it's kind of driving the occupancy to catch up at that.
And what's happening
next year? Who knows?
Yeah, let's get through this one first. And what's happening at Catala then? Is that a similar approach that you're taking for your clients?
It depends, and right now we have many discussions. So yeah, I've heard the same where hotels are pushing the ADR to compensate the increase of cost of living and the cost of everything. But I'm also presenting some data to convince that we should always look at the RevPAR and you even look at TRevPAR, because a point in occupancy for certain resorts is actually very important for your spa revenue, for your F&B revenue, and so on. So it depends. Like for city hotels, ADR could drive more RGI and more market share and more performance, but for some resort, it's super duper hyper important to drive volume and occupancy, because you'll have all the other revenue which will be impacted. So slowly but surely,
Slowly
get me.
but surely.
Slowly, exactly. We are getting into this holistic revenue management and TRevPAR optimization much more than only ADR or only occupancy, which is good.
Brilliant. So we're going to be talking marketing today, and I know that you both are revenue experts, but it'd be great to be able to get your perspective on some of the developments that we are seeing in the industry. So a number of interviews coming up on this episode, but to start with, let's look what's in the news.
Travel Market Life.
So in the news, just in May, was the fact that the European Commission has designated Booking.com as a gatekeeper. So really similarly how it previously branded Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, etc. And that means that hotels will no longer have to abide by rate parity clauses in its agreements. In other words, that hotels can now publish promotions and lower rates on their websites than they would need to on OTAs, offering that potential more flexibility there. Now, there was a world panel discussion on Hospitality Net. I saw a very familiar name as the first person providing that commentary, and that was Mr. Thibault Catala. So what were you saying in regards to that? What's your view on the European Commission's designation?
But I believe the one who knows what to do with this information will drive more market share, and it will be very benefit for them. Like the one which are quite savvy, who have like a direct booking strategy in place, and then investing into a strong website, a strong Google Ads and meta search. Yes, that will drive more performance. Now, for the majority of all the hotels who have no clue and they don't do anything, that won't change much. I would recommend, like for example, like the rate parity issue that we have been discussing for years. Now, legally, as far as I understand the gatekeeper approach, you can drive and you can have cheaper rate on your website than anywhere else, or at least on Booking.com. So that's something I will play first to drive more traffic into your website. But now I will even extend a step further, because everyone was saying like, okay, now it's perfect, Booking.com is a gatekeeper. But keep in mind that sometimes your net RevPAR coming from Booking.com is sometimes the highest one, even if you compare to other channels in direct, for example. If you add all your cost on marketing, your staff, your brand, your loyalty program, and so on, and you remove all of this into your calculation for your net RevPAR, sometimes you realize that your direct bookings net RevPAR is lower than Booking.com, because all of this is including on 50%. So I will suggest that we find the right balance, but we don't always throw the stone first at Booking.com. And I would suggest to piggyback on the marketing, to continue to piggyback on marketing, because they invest for you. So just do your calculation and then adjust your strategy accordingly. But yeah, I believe that's a good move, and we'll see a lot of different applications.
So, Jonny, I mean, this is very much based on sort of Europe and the hotels in Europe. Do you think that this is something that's going to impact the UK? What's your perspective on this, and how might it change your rate parity strategy?
I mean, look, rate parity has been a hot topic of debate for day one since it was put in an OTA contract. And it was outlawed many years ago by European courts that OTAs couldn't insist on parity clauses in the contract and force hotels to give them the same rates that they give to the other OTAs. What it didn't do in the past was prevent the OTA from insisting that the hotel gave them the same direct rates. You could give a different OTA, a lower rate if you wanted to, but no sensible hotel is going to do that. And really, this new addition to that legal or illegal aspect of rate parity, I think for the majority of hotels who have a revenue management practice in place, or a sound revenue management practice in place, it's not going to make a massive impact. It opens the playing field a little bit for the hotels. They've got a bit more opportunity to be a bit more creative, and I think the key strategy is going to be more around marketing than revenue. And if you want to drive your direct business, and if you got the balls to put out a lower rate than the OTAs, then put your marketing efforts behind it and make sure your bookers know and attract them to your website. The flip side of that is, and I'll put 50 pence on this, or 50 cents, whichever ones you want, that if hotels start doing that, the OTAs are going to massively bias them and ruin their listing position and drive them way down the search results. And so you're going to lose out on a lot more OTA business than you're going to get for direct, until you go back to having the same rates, and I won't use the P word, but having the same rates and a level playing field, and then your rankings will come back up again. So it's a moot point. It's you take from one, you give to the other, and things. So it's just jobs for the boys, I think, in the courtrooms to discuss things that really have no impact at all.
I mean, I was reading, and it's very interesting about France, because apparently this ruling came in 2014. And if you look at all the numbers, Booking.com has massively increased the volume of bookings over the last 10 years. Direct bookings have dropped. But then underneath it all, it's because hotels have not invested in their direct channel. Go back to your point, Thibault, is the fact that you need that user experience. I was only booking a hotel for Cambridge, and the fact that a new tab opened every single time I clicked through to something else. And then when I compared rates between this hotel and Booking.com, I actually ended up paying £30 less on Booking.com than on the hotel. And I'm always a direct booker, but because of the frustration of trying to book online and the booking engine really just being archaic to use, I gave up. And if you're not investing in that channel, that direct channel, and providing that seamless experience, I'm out of there.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that hotel doesn't have a sound revenue management policy or marketing policy in place. And there's somebody feeding or powering the booking engine, but not paying any attention to it whatsoever. And they're managing the OTAs. I'm not managing the OTAs. And they probably haven't got a clue what's out there and available to book rate-wise. So to their detriment.
Some just rest on their laurels, don't they? And looking at actual marketing, there's been a little bit of development, and particularly with Airbnb. Yes, okay, it's not hotels, but hospitality. It's been coming across as a contender, disrupting the industry that much more. Airbnb is removing 5,000 experiences and cancelling future reservations. So they opened the whole experiences platform. I think it was around 2020, in order to sort of offer another way of generating revenue. And there were obviously operators across the world that were connected there, but they're removing these listings as of June the 20th because it's just not profitable for them anymore. And this was really driving this idea of the experience economy, and the fact that hotels should be buying into the experience economy. So was this a bit of a sort of red herring, do you think, for the industry? Do you think it was just a marketing ploy by Airbnb? What's your take on this, and how might this benefit the hotel industry?
I believe it was no. I think it's a real market. The market of experience is a market. I also believe it was kind of a big experimentation from Airbnb to see if there was a market for this and if they could drive some good ROI on the investment behind the full experience platform. And to be frank, I believe it's a good move, and it reflects highly on Airbnb to show that if they didn't get the ROI they were expecting from day one, they will cut the losses and say, okay, let's move on. I was wrong. That doesn't work. I move back and I move and let's do something else. So I believe this approach speaks very highly of Airbnb, because many companies, if something doesn't work, then they add more money, more energy, more team on this to make sure it works, just to get them the point saying like, I was right. I want to show the world that I was right. And if Airbnb managed to cut the losses and move forward, I think that's good. Now for hotels, I believe that could be a good opportunity, or at least I will experiment around this idea of proposing experiences as well as hotel stays. And now that's something you cannot find on any Airbnb, but if you want, you have to stay in a hotel, in a group. So I will try to experiment to see how I can incorporate this experimental approach and experiences as well to the public, and see what type of ROI we can get. But I'm quite optimistic.
How about you, Jonny? Experiences at Sarova?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a full concierge team that can book anything for you that you can't get anywhere else. They're a well-connected bunch of people. But I think Airbnb have missed a trick here. I'm not a big user of Airbnb. I've booked a couple of times on it. I certainly didn't know they had the experiences platform as well. So clearly, as we're talking about marketing today, they've not marketed it at all. And the biggest losers here are the experience vendors who got swept up by Airbnb, probably promised the world, because that's generally how it goes. They had a lot of bookings on their diaries, and they've lost them all. They cancelled. They had a global platform on Airbnb presented to the world. They didn't have to do much other than, I imagine, probably pay a commission, and that was it. And now they've lost out hugely on that. So I suspect, sadly, a lot of those businesses are probably going to fold up now because they just won't be able to sustain. They'll have invested heavily on the back of massive productions from Airbnb, and now that's just been cut off like that overnight. And they're the ones that are going to suffer. Hotels-wise and the Airbnb accommodation listings, I don't see it's going to affect them massively, to be honest. You go on Airbnb to book a accommodation and your experience secondarily. You don't go on there first for your bungee jumping and then find a hotel or an Airbnb near it. So I don't think the accommodation providers will suffer massively, but shame on Airbnb. I think they could have done a better job on it.
Right, so Airbnb, you have maybe given opportunity for hotels, but certainly a loss for tour and experience operators. Right, coming up, let's delve into our lead topic today, marketing.
Travel market life.
So guys, I've had a couple of interviews and we are going to listen to our experts to find out what's happening in the world of marketing. The first up is an interview with Sam Weston from 80 Days. He's going to be looking at marketing trends, authenticity, vibing, and food and beverage. So let's head over to the interview now. Hey, Sam, thanks ever so much for joining us today to look into some of these emerging trends that are really impacting how hotels should look at their marketing and strategies. So you've really been exploring what's been happening with consumer behavior and expectations. How is this informing you about how marketing and creative strategies should be adapted today?
I think what we're really seeing is actually quite a bit of variation within the different markets. First and foremost. And I think there's not really a universal pattern amongst travelers today, sort of globally. So some of the examples of some of the variations that we're kind of seeing, it's been a pretty flat start to the year, I'd say. It's fair to say for UK hoteliers, for 4 and 5 star hoteliers. But globally, it's a bit more of a positive picture. So we're seeing kind of revenue and transactions up for 5 stars, certainly. Different levels of purchasing confidence coming into play, different levels of disposable income, currency fluctuations, all of these things having their impact. And we're seeing things like rural properties slightly outperforming urban properties. So quite possibly due to this, the slight flattening of corporate travel versus leisure bookings, being still being a relatively buoyant market.
Now, you've also identified a number of trends that is impacting, the way that hotels position themselves, how they connect with their audience and guests in quite a different way than we've had before. It's not just sort of like blanket mass marketing with one message. It seems to be tapping into very different nuances of the business and the audience that you're looking at catering to. So one of them, let's start off with the first one, authenticity. Big word there. Can you explain to me what this means for the industry?
But I think it's, for me, it's clear that guests are increasingly calling out this kind of inauthentic marketing. And that's where AI maybe is starting to play its part as well. So things like overly edited imagery, video, these sort of things can actually be quite damaging for your brand and the brand equity that you've built up over time, especially when you're trying to build that authenticity and that genuine kind of connection with your guests. So I think it's really treading that fine line at the end of the day, isn't it? Because you want to make sure that you're selling your hotel as best you can. But if you kind of oversell it and set the bar a little too high, then, we've seen many studies that have said that if you oversell it, then when a guest gets to your hotel, you're actually risking an increased chance of a negative review at the end of the day. So yeah, fine line to tread.
Now, another one of your trends, and this is an interesting one because I must say it's one that I hadn't really come across until I read your report, vibing. Can you explain this for me?
So I find this one probably the most interesting of all, to be honest, because again, I hadn't really considered it. I mean, it's probably a bit of an unwritten one. I would say that 78% of travelers now consider your hotel's atmosphere when making a booking, and reviews that mention the word vibe were up by 1,000% on hotels.com in 2023. So it's really about trying to kind of get across that feeling that your hotel evokes when a guest walks into the lobby, even that first impression, that atmosphere in your restaurant, even just how they're greeted by front of house, it's all helping to build that vibe. And actually, it's really a great opportunity, I think, to differentiate yourselves and achieve some of that distinctiveness within the marketplace as well. So.
Excellent. And now the third one I was particularly interested in, and you have tapped into this so far in our conversation, but it's, I guess, food and beverage. What are the F&B expectations of guests today?
I think ultimately they're not just looking for a standard hotel restaurant. I don't think it's a box check exercise anymore to say, does my hotel have a restaurant? Yes, then that's enough. I think they're looking for more of an experiential approach. I think they're looking for more thought being put into the offering. And actually, from the studies that we did and from the report that we kind of created, we found that like 83% of travelers are now considering on-site dining options when choosing their hotel, according to a TripAdvisor study. Mm-hmm. So it's really starting to affect their travel planning and what they're looking to book. And 50% of us apparently are planning trips around specific dishes, which I find particularly fascinating, right? So will a traveler choose their hotel based on who has the best paella or the best haggis? Maybe not, but it's certainly, starting to play into their decision making kind of process.
Yeah. So you can get the extended interview in a few weeks as we publish that on Travel Market Life. And Sam actually delves in a little bit more detail into some of this and provides some advice and tips on how you can bring out the best of your hotel within your marketing. So in and around this, Jonny at Sarova Hotels, authenticity, vibing, F&B, how does that play part in your approach to your marketing and positioning?
Yeah, 100%. Sam said a lot of points that we discuss internally as well when we're working on a marketing strategy and a website. We're in the middle of actually building a brand new website, which should be launching over a period of time, one property at a time, but hopefully launching the first hotel quite soon. You have to be 100% honest these days. You can't get away with embellishing the truth anymore. Putting up pictures that are slightly better than what the reality is, because people pick it up straight away, or they'll come up to reception with their phone and go, "Look at this picture. That's not what I got." It just doesn't work anymore. Reminds me of the old Basil Fawlty scene where the lady checks into a room and she says, "I wanted a sea view," and he said, "You can see the sea round the corner. It's between the sky and the land." But you couldn't get away with that in those days, but not anymore. So, you've got to lay your cards on the table. This is the product we've got. This is what we're offering. This is what you're going to get. If you like it, if you're happy with that, buy it, come and stay, have a good time. And if it's not what you're looking for, then, we're not the right property for you. But you've got to be open and honest. And following on for the other two points of vibing in the F&B, again, first contact when they walk in the door, or even when they approach the outside and see the outside of the building, it's got to be clean and tidy, bright, open and welcoming, and then somebody with a smile when you walk in the door. That's it. Your stay or your experience has got off on the right foot, and it can only get better from there on. If you walk in somewhere dark and dingy, or there's a bit of a moldy smell, or the surly receptionist who doesn't look up when you walk up to the desk, it's never going to work out. So yeah, got to do it. And I mean, F&B, that's a difficult one, because one of our properties, the Rembrandt, Central London, there's so many options for people to dine in the city that if you're on a multi-night stay, sure, maybe dine in the hotel one night, but you're going to go out. It's just the way it is, and we accept it. We offer a nice menu. It's a good menu, I think, and it covers all genres of tastes and dietary requirements. But if people want to go out, let them go. Don't waste your time trying to drag them back in the door and force them to eat. But on the flip side, our hotel in Windsor, the Sir Christopher Inn, they've got a brasserie right by the river, by the towpath on the River Thames, with massive big picture windows all across one side. And that's an experience that people come from far and wide to dine there for the location and the views and the service and everything else. So it's, it's complete different ends of the spectrum for us. But yeah, Sam, agree with pretty much all his points, really. Yeah, good interview.
And Thibault, how does these three sort of play into the conversations that you have with your customers and build those revenue and marketing strategies around?
But first of all, I don't know if you have seen the report. I think it was from Booking.com or Expedia. I don't recall. They were saying like the keyword vibe, the vibe of the property was coming back into all the reviews post stay. So definitely something that you should look into, because guests are rating your property based on the vibe. Something which is very unquantifiable. You cannot say exactly. It's not tangible, but the vibe is super important. Maybe it's a buzzword, yes, but the vibe is everything right now. And right now, authenticity, as you mentioned, it goes from the full experience of the guest. From the moment you interact with a chatbot, the moment you interact on the phone, the way people talk to the client. So the authenticity, you feel it from day one. If you have someone who's trying to fake it, you're like, okay, there's something wrong. I'm not going to book this hotel. Or even on the look and feel of the website, the pictures and so on. If there's something off, not authentic, you get smashed and people will feel it. It's something like that you cannot touch, but you feel there's something wrong and you're misaligned. So authenticity, people and guests are not stupid. They feel it, and that's very important that you work on it from your guest experience, from your online presence, your website, but as well your staff training, the way they interact. So I think this kind of work that you do, Ryan, as well, with your corporate identity, to make sure you identify yourself, you have your brand positioning, you have the tone of voice that you use, or the angles of the pictures, all of this, to make sure there is this kind of alignment and authenticity to attract more people and to drive more business. So yeah, very important, and I believe that's the root of everything else that we will do with marketing, sales, and revenue management. But it all starts by understanding who you are and making sure you stick to it.
Lovely. Thank you, guys. So moving on to our next interview then, we're going to be hearing from Richard Collie, the Managing Associate for TLT LLP, a consumer law expert with a particular specialism in the leisure industry. Now, with the growth of e-commerce, there's obviously issues around sort of how you market yourself authentically and make sure that you are abiding around the rules and laws there. So we're going to look into drip pricing. I asked him, what is drip pricing to start with?
I mean, the first thing to point out is that drip pricing doesn't carry any kind of legal definition. It really essentially is a kind of an informal description of a certain way of pricing products. And it's very common across a wide range of sectors. Essentially, it describes a situation where a consumer is searching for a product or service online, usually online. They see a headline price, they proceed through the checkout process, and by the time they get to the checkout, the price is increased from that headline price because of a range of different add-ons that have been dripped in throughout the process. Now, it's important to be kind of clear what those additional elements of the price are. Some things may be optional, extras that are kind of the consumer can take it and leave it. Other aspects of it may be mandatory. So things that prices like, for example, a booking charge or administration charge that all consumers have to pay. It's that latter element that regulators are increasingly concerned about, and they're referring to them, rightly or wrongly, as junk fees, and they believe they should be included in the headline price. But obviously, as you know, Ryan, it doesn't. It's really important to be kind of clear from the outset that a lot of products are, by their nature, bespoke and customized. I mean, take a package holiday, for example. Consumers often want options and choices and power to make that decision and to pay a price that reflects what they want. So yes, some prices may be dripped in those circumstances, but I think we just obviously need to get things in perspective here when we're talking about drip pricing, because it captures some practices that are more harmful than others from a consumer law perspective.
I mean, it is fascinating, particularly with the way that e-commerce have evolved over the last few years, in particular competition between securing that direct booking and going through third-party providers. And I guess you see that much more when there's that highly competitive market environment. And we particularly see that obviously within travel, specifically across both flights and hotels. And it's certainly the role of meta search. And I guess is that as well where you're starting to see it becoming more glaringly obvious, because you see a price at one point, maybe 79 quid, and then you see another price from another provider at like 24 quid. But then I guess when you get to the end of the bucket, the cart, then actually they could be very similar or identical prices.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good way of looking at it, because actually when you look at this from the perspective of the Competition and Markets Authority, which is both a consumer protection regulator and a competition regulator, price is and always has been the main driver of competition. And particularly when price comparison websites, meta search providers, as you say, are enabling consumers to shop around more easily. That's one of the reasons why regulators are so keen to ensure that there's good competition, healthy competition for that headline price. And one of the things that's really interesting is that most of the the two main investigations by the CMA to date that sort of touch upon drip pricing have both been in relation to sort of intermediaries. So Booking.com, Expedia, Trivago, and I think there were 8 different hotel bookings websites that were subject to their investigation, which I think was 2019. But one of the issues there, where they were saying, what the CMA said is, look, you're not including mandatory charges. The headline prices that consumers are searching for don't include things like booking fees, resort fees, taxes that any consumer is going to have to pay. So if it's mandatory, it's got to be in that headline price.
And are we at risk of there being more regulation here? Is the government planning to bring in any sort of new policies? Will there be a ban? And what might this look like?
Yes, yes, is the answer to your question. So with regards to drip pricing, the government has announced that it will introduce legislation to ban, again, as I said, what they see as junk fees, mandatory fees that consumers are always going to pay, which could, as I say, be sort of fixed booking charges, administration charges, service charges, those sorts of things. If whatever happens, the consumer's going to have to pay it. It needs to be the legislation will state that it must be included in the headline price.
So that was Richard Collie, the managing associate at TLT, a consumer law expert. That full interview is actually available already on Travel Market Live. So do look back on a couple of episodes and maybe listen to the whole thing. So guys, what's your thoughts here? Is it a practice that you engage with? Is it one that you ask your customers to stay well clear of? Have you had an experience of this? Thibault?
I hate it.
We agree on something.
No, but it's super misleading. Like we discussed about it, but that's very similar to Ryanair. You're like, okay, $20 on my flight to Rome. Yeah, let's go. And then you end up at a $400 ticket. You're like, okay, there's something wrong in between the beginning and the end. So we go back to this kind of authenticity. And I believe by having this kind of drip pricing, it could be misleading to make sure, and that could actually fire back to the brand and to the hotel that are doing this kind of practice. I know that a lot of online channels, I won't name anyone, but they do this kind of drip pricing by removing or not the VAT or the city taxes and so on, by having cheaper rates online, and then when you end up, you have a different price. So that's also a marketing technique to increase the conversion. But I believe it's also like misleading, and I won't recommend anyone to go into drip pricing. Now there's something else which is directly or indirectly linked to drip pricing. It's value-based pricing, where you start with a naked room and then you add what you want on top of the room. It's a bit different from drip pricing, if I'm not mistaken, and from the value perspective and what we expect from the price and the value, that may be a bit different, similar but different. But the approach would be better, in my opinion.
Oh dear, similar but different. Yes, I mean, there's always different ways to be able to dress these pricing techniques up, isn't there? Jonny, I mean, what's your thoughts here? I think you were quite strong on your opposition to this.
Yeah, it's hugely frustrating from a personal point of view as a consumer when you're looking at things. And to Thibault's point, Ryanair and other airlines are available. Please choose them. But yeah, the drip pricing there, they have the lead-in price, which you could purchase and pay and do your, as Thibault's example, a trip to Rome for $20. But you can't bring anything with you. You can't, other than your passport and the clothes you're wearing. So it's pointless, but it's consumable. We get quite often, and Richard referred to the meta sites. We often get calls into our central res office where we've quoted somebody a price for a hotel, and then the reply comes back, oh, well, I saw it on TripAdvisor or Trivago or Ramoma for this price or that price, and it's much cheaper than yours. And then we challenge them to go ahead and try and book at that price. We say, look, it doesn't include VAT, or once you go through and click on it, that price won't be available. It's the lead-in price on the first screen. Click through to try and book it, and you'll get a message, oh, you just missed the last room, and now the price is this, and those sorts of things. So that's kind of drip pricing. It's also misleading marketing as well, but it's that sort of thing where they then add in the VAT and the booking fee and the this and the that and the other, and then they come to the end of it, and actually it works out more than what we'd quoted them direct. So we spend a lot of time battling against it, trying to convince the customer that either book direct or stick with the big two that we know and trust. So to speak.
Yeah.
The other area we fall down, which isn't really drip pricing as such, but it's the same sort of concept as in the US market. We unfortunately don't have the ability to, with our technology and our booking engine, to display our rates net of tax on Google, even just on the Google search page. But the likes of hotels.com, ExpediaBooking.com, they can. So we always appear more expensive in the first search because we include tax, they don't. But of course, when you click through to make the booking, tax gets added on, which is typical in the States. I just came back from New York at the weekend, and in the shops a couple of times you buy stuff, and then at the tin I'm going, why is it more expensive? Oh, bloody tax, I forgot about that. So that's the way they do it. And they're used to it in the States, so that's fine. That's how it works. But for us, we can't compete against that. So it's frustrating, but there is a lot of laws and regulations, certainly in the UK, about even B2C pricing, you can't offer prices X VAT. You have to include the VAT for that very reason. B2B, of course, everything's quoted X VAT, but when you're going direct to the consumer, it's got to be included. So, but a bit tightening of the rules. And of course, you get suppliers outside of the EU who are a bit more unscrupulous with their practices, and you can't catch them, you can't find them, and they just don't care. They'll throw it out there and try and clean up. So, but it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, because I was saying to Richard during the interview, and we cover, the fact of subscription services, because you look for a particular travel product or hotel, and you might see it available on one website at £11, and then everything else, every other website, every other sort of channel is 150. But the £11 is because if you're a subscriber to that site, you will benefit from that rate of some kind. And there's a lot more, particularly in the US, sort of businesses that are allowing access to the, say, GDS rates, and you just pay an annual subscription for that privilege. And usually, obviously, that's just open to travel agents. So I find that particularly misleading, but he does cover that off as to why that's legal, because obviously you need to become a member in order to benefit from that price.
Yeah.
Right then, guys. That rounds off our conversation on marketing. For those of you listening, please check out our Hotelier's Voice episode with Sophia Montaner from Melia, where we delve into marketing strategies and how activities and tactics have changed as a result of changing consumer behaviors. That'll be out in a few weeks, so look out for that in your inbox. Coming up next, are you ready, guys? It's a quick quiz.
Travel Market Life.
Should we disgrace ourselves again, Thibault? What'd you say? We usually do with this.
I have tried to simplify the questions somewhat this time. It's a best of 5 where our panelists are challenged to their industry knowledge. They have a buzzer, a bell, and a horn to make an instant noise so we can hear them ready to make an answer. So, if you're ready, let's get ourselves into the first question. Right. Lover's Deep Luxury Submarine Hotel in St. Lucia is regarded as the world's most expensive hotel room per night. How much is it?
Blimey.
The ADR or the public rate?
Per night.
The sell price, Thibault.
Yeah,
Sure.
US dollars per night on average.
Including or excluding tax?
With drip pricing or not? With drip pricing.
I got to submit a guess. I mean, I know
Go on.
there's expensive hotels in the world, so it's got to be. I'm going to say $30,000, and I don't even think that's enough.
You're going 30,000. Thibault's going
40,000.
because it is going to be more, isn't it?
Yes.
150,000 US dollars per
God.
night. It includes a private captain, chef, butler, helicopter transfers, beach landings, and champagne breakfast.
You didn't say what was included. That's
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Come on.
All right. Question number 2. It's a movie question.
Uh-huh.
Name the movie where Hugh Grant heads to the Savoy before posing as a journalist with Horse and Hound magazine to declare his love for Julia Roberts.
Notting Hill.
Yes, well done. 1 point to Jonny,
I got
1 point
one
to Thibault. Okay, question 3. Some hotels have what may seem like odd rules. Licking the walls is strictly forbidden in one Bolivian hotel, completely made out of what ionic compound? What is the hotel room made out of?
Salt.
Jonny. Salt, yes. Well done.
I was going to say like something sugary, like candy or something.
I was going to go Willy Wonka until you said Bolivia, and then I went, no, actually, there's cocoa producers in Bolivia, aren't they?
Coconut could be a good one.
Oh, yeah. But I couldn't imagine myself licking a salt wall. Can you?
Yes, that's an
dry
idea.
mouth.
That's not even an idea.
Well, you'd come out looking like a prune if you stayed there. Have you ever seen those salt drying things where they
Yes.
store meat?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd be well cured, wouldn't you?
You would. Blimey. Anyway, move on
Right.
quickly.
Question 4. That's a quick quiz. How many hotels are on Walt Disney World in Florida? Yes, Thibault.
100.
You're going for 100. Jonny, you going to punt a guess?
I'm going to go 99. I think it's,
You did the same as me before.
I think it's less.
Yeah, much less. 32.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey, that's a point for me.
All right. Okay, that's 3-1. So we'll just see if we get some sort of balancing out here. Which famous cocktail originated in the Raffles Hotel, Singapore? Yes, Thibault.
the Singapore sling.
Yes. Well done. The Singapore sling. But
Absolutely.
Jonny still wins with 1 extra point, 3-2. So well done. Good effort. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Well, guys, we're going to be taking a bit of a break for the summer, July and August, so that we can double on down with our guests and what's happening in the industry and return hopefully back in September. But thank you for joining us on our panel and contributing for these last 6 months. I really appreciate it. And I guess I hope everything goes well for the businesses.
Likewise.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks to you, Ryan. It's been a good 6 months and looking forward to the next ones and catching up again.
Absolutely. A lot of fun.
All right then, guys. Thank you. Catch you again soon. This is Travel Market Live, the hospitality review show.
For more, go to Travel Market Life. The music sensation by Zach Nelson is reproduced under license from Storyblocks. Travel Market Life is a Haynes Marcoms digital marketing agency production, serving the travel and technology industries.